Hello friends, in this video we are going to see how you can write a automated test scenario and execute it. In the earlier video we have seen you just need three capabilities to automate any test scenario. You need a driver or a client, for example HTTP client. Second thing, you need a executor. Third thing, you need a asserter. So in this video we are going to see how all these three things hang together. Whether you are transitioning from a manual testing to automation testing, or you are already an automation tester, we are going to see how efficiently you can drive your tests. We are going to take leverage of open source tools, libraries, so that you can write automation test scenarios without writing code. Just have your scripts, for example, in a YAML file or a JSON file. You arrange your driver, your executor, and your asserter, and fire a test. Let's jump into action. So earlier you have seen we had a staging database and we were selecting some records from some entities, and we were checking the count and the records, manually verifying it here, checking whether that many rows are present or not. For example, if you run this, so we have selected ID and email ID from staging DB and the schema as well as the entity. Okay, and we got ID is this, email is this, ID is this, and email is this. But we are manually verifying that yes, this ID, this email, there are two records, count, all this manually is fine. But to automatically execute, here's the thing we can do it. Copy this and automatically execute means the tool should take care of execution and give the result and assert. All these things the test script should do and manually should not be verified. Okay, so let's jump into action. So earlier as I have explained you need three things. For the database executor, so when we execute a SQL, this executor is used and the driver details are in a properties file. See, it's using a JDBC driver and the host of the port and which database and username as well as password, and the executor configuration is here. That's what is used. Similarly, for the HTTP client, we are executing a get, post, put, or header delete or any method, and the host which is having the target details, they are configured here. So the purpose is you have the driver, then you have the executor, and you have the assertions block. Similarly, for the database, you have the driver details in the properties file and the executor here and the assertions block here. And you pass a command execute, then you pass a SQL script, and then you verify. Currently the verifier is nothing, has nothing, which we are going to fit the expectations, and we'll see whether the test passes or not. Okay, we have copied this query and let's put it here. I can little bit enlarge it. See, looks better now. Yeah. So what is this? So this is, I've just put any scenario name, and you can put, this is basically author name, any author you can put. Then step name, this is a free text, and this is the predefined executor which the library, the open source library, gives out of the box. This is the operations, execute, select, update, whatever. We'll get into this framework level details later, but for now just focus on how it is doing the automation work. Then we are giving a query, and here we should expect some output which we'll put here in a minute. Okay, now let's run the scenario. We are using Maven to drive all the tests. So let's clean it. Everything is clean. Now to run the scenario, we'll take help of a executor, a runner. So ambient test minus d test equal to where the runner is. Here is the runner, demo database test. Copy paste. So we can do database test. Okay. So the test has run. The test has passed because we don't have anything in the verification section, which is the assertion section. And you see the test executed. It did the request, which is we fired the SQL, and the driver took this and executed it and gave us a response. We can copy this response here and expect the result. Okay, for example, let's run it once again. Yeah, the build passed. Now for the sake of testing, we'll put some wrong IDs. Let's say you are expecting, instead of 23, you are expecting 33. Here in 24, we are expecting 44. And email.com, your x.com, y.com. So just for the sake of validation, if we run this, the test should fail. So the test has failed. See, it says errors 1. Now it is also showing what all things it failed here. So value of 23 did not match 33 here. 9830323 not matching 9830333. Same way the email is not matching. So the test failed. You see, we are not manually verifying. So this, we just passed a command, it executed. Same way you can run this from the ID as well. Same thing. The test has failed here. Okay. All the failures are listed here. You see, the assertions are not manual. Everything executed at once. Or you can also do some more assertions. For example, if you're not interested in values, you can do rows dot, let's say, delete this, rows dot size is 2. You know that there are 2 rows and you are just interested in the count. Yeah, the test has passed. Okay, you expected 2 and you got 2 rows. Yeah, let's say if we're expecting, let's say, 10 rows, which is not right, and if you run it, so it should fail exactly for that reason. See, the payload we're expecting is 10, but the actual are 2 rows, and that's where exactly it gave the error. Did not match 10 with 2. Okay, we'll get into these aspects of how, what all things you can execute later, but for the demo purpose, let's focus on how the test scenarios are executed and how this is written. For example, let's say we'll take an API testing, exactly same way. So you need a driver. Instead of a driver here, you need a HTTP client and a executor where we are passing get and asking him to execute it. And in the request, we are passing a query parameter and content type, all these things. We'll see how it hangs together. And in the response, we are expecting 200 back and login, body as login, all these things. Okay, so let's execute this in a second. So all these things are the comments. So let me remove all this just to keep it clean. Done, removed. Okay, so looks pretty clean. What we are trying to execute here for the HTTP API, which is nothing but a REST API, is we are hitting a endpoint API dot github.com /users/AutoCAD. So this is the API which is GitHub exposed. It's openly available. That's why we are using this API as a demo. Hit this, and you can do a raw data here. You see the JSON has come, and in this JSON you can assert everything as it is, or you may not be interested in all the fields. You are just interested in user fields. Login. So there is a login here and ID here. So let's copy this and put it in our body section. Okay, yeah, okay. Now for the sake of simplicity, we'll remove everything. Okay, let's remove this header section. Let it be 200 be there, because that's a nice assertion. If it is not 200, it's definitely a failure. We'll check that. For a GET request, you may not need all these things. These are for demo purpose. It is there, which shows the framework capabilities. Let's remove that. Then retry bit you don't need. For time being, you can put retry. Let's say you want to retry 3 times or 10 times. All these are available out of the box. Let's take this out and we'll make it as HTTP REST API automated scenario. So that how many times we execute, that many times it will generate a report based on the results, as well as we'll put the author name who has written this test case. All these things are optional. Let's not get into this now, and trigger it here. Same thing, ambient test -d test, write API test, enter. So the test has passed because everything is green here, and your assertions are just a couple of fields, login ID and status 200. Now for example, put something random, XYZ UVW, which is not existing, and that means, let's say it should be 404, right? You're not found, which is 404, yeah. And if we execute this automatic execution, and it will go and verify that it's not matching. Yes, look at this. So this 404 is not matching with 200, and rest of the things also failed because it didn't respond with the body as we expected. See, it gave a different body here, and our expectations are something different, so the entire thing failed. Now if you give for a wrong ID, which as automation tester you should have this scenario as well. You give a non-existing ID and assert that, you get 404 here and no body. Okay, now if you run this, this will pass. This should pass. Yes, success. Okay, because you are expecting 404 and you got 404. Okay, So these are the capabilities, and there are a lot of things you can do. A retry, you can do headers and body. You can, instead of get, put post head. There are different methods you can test it. Now let's look at the result, how it is generate the result. Here is the HTML result. You can double click, it should open it here. Now see who has the authors appearing here. You can sort by, it says regression test. You can sort by who all total tests are here. Nirmal written this many tests, Chandra written this many tests, and you can get a nice report here, which in which operating system, what is the version, so on and so forth. How many tests you wrote, how many tests failed, and what percentage passed and failed. All these things out of the box, you get the result. Okay, but we are not focusing on those aspects. I will create a separate video to run through many scenarios how you can do it. There is help available here as well. You go to the open source library, github.com/maybe 0code tdd, yeah, and there is the documentation here. Okay, so how to do API testing, then it says Kafka testing, database testing, so on and so forth. There are hundreds of things are available. You can have a look when you get chance. But for now, we are focusing on these concepts. What is automated testing and how you can engineer automated testing. In the short video, you have seen earlier that you need a driver, a executor, and a asserter. That's what we are going to cover in this. Okay, let's first come to full test. In a typical test, whether you use Java, Python, or Node.js, or TypeScript, whatever it is, this is the basic pattern every automation tester follow. For example, you create a driver connection, then you execute your request, then you assert your response. Okay, so the component one, what you need, for example, you are doing a testing on car delivery. You have to test how the engine performs, how the locking system performs, but the car is a thing which you manually drive and test it. But to automatically test, you need a external control, for example, a robot or robotics or some other automation way, then execute it. Similar, another example, let's say there is a rocket manufactured, okay, and what is test automation mean to test that rocket? Imagine you are a quality engineer at a space agency. A brand new rocket just rolled out of assembly facility. Your job is to certify or validate, which is basically test that the rocket works as expected. Since no human can be inside during the testing, this is the important bit, because this means there is no manual testing involved. So you have to take help of the automated way of testing. That is how automatical test comes into picture. So to do that, you need a component one, which is the driver. For example, in our software, a digital world, it's a JDBC driver or a Chrome driver or Selenium driver or simply HTTP client, where the target system should be accessible programmatically in a headless mode. Example, here we have seen that. Okay, you get a connection from your target system. Now as component 2 is executor. What is that? It takes a command. For example, you saw that here just now. whether it is a get command or instead of, in case of database, it takes a execute command for select. Okay, and gets you the response back, where you got the response. You see, you executed it and you got the response. This part is not the expected one. This is the actual response you got, which GitHub threw here. Okay, now example, if you programmatically do, you execute a query, you get a database response back in terms of result sets. You have seen that. Let me another. Okay, immune test, database test. So I'm showing two examples, which is here. This is the actual response you received, and this is the expected response is 10. Actual response is 2 rows. That's why it's failed. But this is what it's saying here. It takes your command, gets you the response back. Then the third one is the important bit, which is the asserter. That judges the responses are correct or wrong. Okay, for example, which is nothing but your assertions here, this bit, whether that count is correct or not, all these things. Okay, that's pretty much automated testing. The complete test example looks like this. You have a driver, you execute the things here, entire block, then you finally assert. You will have multiple assertions when you programmatically do. And when you do declaratively, like by a script, JSON or YAML, you just put everything in a place here, and it does multiple assertions behind the scene. Okay. Side-by-side comparison, when you compare with a rocket analogy to your automated testing, this is how it is mapped. In a layman term, to test a rocket system, you need a telemetry link to control the rocket, because there is no human, so some kind of software control you need. In your digital world or software testing, you need a JDBC driver or a HTTP connection or a Selenium driver. Then second one is executor. You need to pass a command, for example, get, post, put, head, delete, whatever it is in HTTP, or in a case of a JDBC driver, you just have to pass the SQL queries, update, select, and so on and so forth. And that equivalent is this, you see. Then the third one is asserter, where you check your rocket is giving that kind of code or the validation you expected. And in the software world, it is assert equals, assert true, assert false, assert count, assert string, so on and so forth. Okay, so you understood. That's pretty much covers the approach to automation. If you're a manual tester and switching to automation, these things you have to keep in mind. And if you're automated tester, as that you are already doing automation different ways, maybe you are already doing declarative way or not. Depending on that, you can switch to declarative way, which saves you time and makes your test cases or scenarios very clean, and reporting also very pretty. Okay, thanks very much for watching.